Hello, this is the ZRL Leg Loosener by Team RWB, the Riders Without Borders. This is the ZRL Recon for round 3. We're doing 3 laps of the Flatland loop. We've got 106 people in this pen, in the B group. Looks like it'll be a pretty strong field and a good race. Flatland loops on Umezi Island. Or Makuri Island, Umezi. This is actually the first race I've ever done on this course, or even in this world. Done a few group rides, but nothing with intensity. So this should be a fun experience, at least something new. At least getting a little preview of the finish. Come down a little hill, go over this bridge. It's a little loud. And then through the arch to get a power up. We get arrows, vans, and feathers in this ZRL race. We've got 2 sprints each lap, and hey, we can super tuck here just to get rid of the extra acid that you put in your legs from sort of intense start to stay in the group. Yeah, but now we're skipping ahead 3 miles or so to the first sprint. And our first little cue is the road off to the right. Right at the back of the group because we want to accelerate through it to get FTS points. There's sort of a bus stop up here on the right that's sort of a good landmark to get you to probably 25 seconds from the end of the arch. Somewhere between 20 and 25 seconds from the bus stop to the end of the sprint. Now here I'm like, okay, I can see it in the distance, I'll start going. And I end up going way too early. It's much too early. You can't even see the bus stop. But I got an arrow, and I drop it here at the front of the pack, so this would have been perfect if we were just 100 meters down the road. Yeah, so there's that bus stop. That might be where you want to start. Dropping the arrow somewhere around here will get you almost all the way to the arch. So the best speed right here at the start of the sprint. And here I let off because that was too long. And to do a full sprint there is pretty difficult, so you go right into a climb afterwards. Yeah, I did it 7.5, which was pretty good with letting off halfway through. So you definitely can get a really good time by just powering up the line. But here now, people start going by, so I better pick it up. Heart rate has to come down, but this goes right into this climb. I put the profile here on the bottom. Hopefully it's not that blurry as I'm looking at it right now, but it starts out with its deepest section. We're going to go from 1%, and it touches 6% on the way up here. This is where, if you didn't go through the sprint with intensity, you might be able to push and really put some of those sprinters in the hurt. I know I was definitely feeling it right here. But yeah, it goes from 2 and then it jumps up to 6, so we're going up into one of the villages. As we get to the village, it flattens off again. And this climb, let's see, we're at 7 minutes roughly at the start of the climb. We'll see how long it takes. It's definitely a drafty climb. As long as you're not on the front of a group, you should be fine. Or at least, compared to the person on the front, you won't be working quite as hard. But yeah, we're still all up in high 5s, which is not easy to do after 15 watts per kilogram sprint before that. Yeah, but we're on the flat part now. Yeah, and then there's 2 more sort of drafty uphill sections. One of them gets reasonably steep, up to 5% for a little bit. The first one here, just coming out of the village. And then there's sort of a longer 3% drag that drops down to 1%, sort of where it levels off at the top. And hopefully you got another arrow for the sprint that comes up at the top of this. Oh, that's a really pretty village. There's definitely some Swift's best 3D modeling stuff. Definitely a pretty world, though. The road seems a little bit skinnier. I don't know if that changes the physics at all. Our drafty pack is not nearly as wide as it normally is. So yeah, we're up at 3% now. You can see we're sort of all bunching together. I'm trying to keep it, the avatar, right at the back of the fat part of the group, but sometimes it's hard to tell when this is also skinny, and we've got a lot of people here still. Yeah. It just ends up being a long drag. We're roughly 3 minutes in, 2.5 minutes. Look at why these other pens that I think some of the other races start out from. And we could talk about drafting here. Because I'm not exactly sitting in sort of the best spot because, well, we're going uphill, so there's not going to be quite as much motion unless you let off. But now I've sort of drifted back to where I feel like I'm in the back of the fat part of the group. See where the dirty work guy in front of me. That's sort of where the most people are competing for wheels. So if you sit behind it, you won't have as much competition with people behind you for the wheels that are in front of you. As you bouncing back and forth in the draft, you're picking different wheels. The simulation's picking a different wheel each time. Someone up in front of you, you're drafting off of them. And sort of you take their speed. But everyone around you every second is also recalculating who they're drafting off of. So depending on what you're doing, what the people around you are doing, the people in front of you are doing, the ones behind you, it'll pick a new person for you to draft. So what you want to do is have the least competition. Because if you have competition and you don't want to work hard, you'll start going backwards. But it's also useful to sort of pulse your power every few seconds. That will let you choose a better person to draft off of. And we'll see what happens with the new version 3 physics at some point. And this bridge is sort of the top of the drafty 3% part. Still a pretty long uphill, but it'll probably settle down a little bit through here. See, we're at 2%. Just keeps on going. Yep. So we're at the top of the long drag part. So now we're leveled off. All right, I think he says 12 kilometers in. We're at 5.6 miles. This is a half kilometer, so not entirely sure. It's a little blurry. So then really there's just one little lump. But here, it's definitely a place to rest, so you can rest up for the sprint that comes in the next village. Yeah, heart rate for me is up at 150, so we're just above threshold right at in terms of heart rate. Which is, yeah, going up this hill was a sort of threshold effort, maybe a little harder. Since we're only 12 minutes in, it would be unusual to be a threshold if I was doing a long time trial. Yep, just going through the forest. Yep, see behind the fat part of the group, there's a few people behind me. If the group is really tight, you can sort of be all the way at the back. And there are definitely riders who are really good at drafting that can stay all the way back there. I was still just sort of getting a feel for what the group was going to be doing. If this was an A group, I probably would be all the way on the back. sort of the harder the group goes, the more it's required to go with lower watts per kilograms to stay at the very back. You just have to anticipate everything that happens at the front. Yeah, here's our little lump. Goes up to 3% for a bit. Really just sort of the thing that tells you, hey, there's a sprint coming up. As everyone kicked it up a little bit. And here I think I move a little bit too far forward if I really want to get a great sprint time. And I think I end up using my power up and start my sprint a little late for best sprint practice. But if you're tired, it might be better to do your sprints later, since you don't have to go for quite as long. Yeah, I should start your ramp up here and then be all in with your arrow right here. See, I was just before I should be hitting arrow, then I hit it here. You can see it doesn't even last, or it lasts throughout the whole sprint, so you're definitely not using it to its fullest extent. These sprints are pretty short. Should probably be under 7 seconds. At least if you have an arrow. So this goes into the sprint, back down to the start-finish line. And we'll do the sprints again. Edmondson, he's out front. I think we'll see him again. And here's the start of that downhill where you can do some super tucking. Yep. Another feather. So here we start from that road. This is sort of the half-mile mark. I don't quite go as hard on this one. You know, it's just a training race. No need to go after every sprint like it's the last sprint you do. I think I started my sprint here last time. That's too far. As we can see in the distance, and there's our bus stop. Then we would start ramping up here. Get that. And then really start turning the legs over. Have an arrow, hit it here. Maybe even hit the feather there, but here I'm just sort of cruising along, following in the draft. Because I did 7.5 before, this one ends up being an 8.4. That's not too bad. At least, I don't think I went over 600, 700 watts. Mostly I'm just trying to make the climb up a little bit easier. Yeah, once again, I sort of get stuck behind some other people and I need to stay close to this group for this first 6% section of the climb. Heart rate still 150. That's what you get when you start your climb with the sprint. I think I let this run all the way to the village. So still doing 5s here. Because someone's definitely going on the front at this point of this race. So you could break it apart. Because here, there's definitely a gap opening up there. So I should probably, so I dropped the feather that I got there nicely. So move up. At least get close to the people who are closing the gap. Out of the saddle. No, they're not too far ahead up there. But yeah, our group is stretched pretty good. Yeah, once it flattens out, probably close those gaps. So there's a little downhill. But see, it all stayed again together. We'll run through this sprint again. There's that little hump, and you have the castle on your right. This left turn, about when you ramp it up, start ramping it up. Start the sprint, hit the arrow, and it'll run out a second or two before the line. Yeah, you want to hit the start of the sprint at the highest speed possible, because it's so short. Of course, it does make it hard. If you're a low A and an A race, and going up that climb each time is going to be really tough if you go after those sprints. Maybe we get to see the sprint again. This is our third time through. It's nice that they show the last sprint time through here. Yep, Bunny's on Edmondson. Yep, don't start here. Feel the flow. Stay at the back if you're going for FTS points. Maybe a little farther forward, shorter sprint, you're going for the fat points only. Ramp it up from the bus stop. Hit the arrow here. I probably hit that draft a little late. But yeah, the whole group didn't really hit this very hard this time. Definitely not a third lap of the ZRL is going to do, though. Even then, if you want to save something for this climb, you've already sprinted 4 times. Done the climb twice, and you have to do another sprint, climb, sprint, sprint. Yeah, sprint at the top. And then we're going to run this all the way to the finish. Yeah, we don't really do any sprinting on this one. Everyone was saving it. Also, I did not have a power-up. It's a little disappointing. At least in the ZRL, there's not the blank power-up through the arch possibility. Hey, I had a van. That'll be relevant. I think it ends up making me start my sprint a little late. That's the one problem with the van, is you want other people to start sprinting first. And if the speed is high, you might not get to where you need to go. Yeah, but this is definitely a super tuckable little descent. So you get down to 3 and to 4. The 3% maybe not. You might go backwards if you try super tuck now, but here's where you really can get some rest, which is good. Definitely refill that short-term power in your legs. You know, spin them out a little bit here. And I've got the profile of this thing. You can see a real steep part. It's like 400 meters from the line. I really think hitting it on that is the way to go. If you do it afterwards, and you won't catch the people who do sprint on the downhill. If everyone sprints on the downhill, well, it'll probably just be the strongest person who wins. Yeah, so right about there. I can get the power on now. Then you'll probably be hitting the front and hit your arrow right here. So that's where everyone hits their arrow, but no one's moving faster than the group. If you want to move faster than the group, out the front. And then that goes right across the line. Best sprint power ever for me. But end up third. It's a good race. ZRL should be fun again. Another good recon. Way to go, Steve.